So I'd like to start with a quick crash course in nuclear physics, which is always fun. Nuclear fission is a process that breaks apart heavy atoms like uranium and plutonium in order to release energy. And all current nuclear power plants are fission-based. Nuclear fusion is a process that actually is the opposite. It combines light atoms together like hydrogen in order to release energy. Now, fusion power plants of the future are expected to use isotopes of hydrogen called deuterium and tritium. And these deuterium-tritium fusion reactions are meant to create a helium atom and a hot neutron. And it's that neutron that's meant to leave the chamber, go through water, boil it, create steam, and turn a turbine and generate electricity. The way we're going to do this is we want to use these superconducting magnets to confine this fuel in these donut-shaped devices that we call tokamaks. And the idea is to heat this fuel up to over 100 million degrees Celsius, about 10 times hotter than the core of the sun, in order to allow them to run into each other and fuse together. So now comes the big question, why are we going through so much trouble to find one more way to boil water? Coal and nuclear plants have already shown pretty good ways to heat up water and create steam and turn a turbine. So what is it about fusion? Well, the benefits of fusion are that it offers pretty abundant fuel reserves. With half the fuel being deuterium, it's found in ocean water. The other half, tritium, is actually manufactured from lithium, which is not infinite, but also not exceptionally rare. Like nuclear fission, it has no carbon emissions, but unlike fission, it also has no, it has no long-lived waste that you have to deal with, that you have to store for millennia. Now, fusion research has made huge progress during the latter half of the 20th century in terms of their key success metric, which has actually been outpacing Moore's law, which is the law that defines the rate at which we've been shrinking our microchips. So one of the most powerful metrics of scientific accomplishment, fusion actually has been exceeding for half a century. So then it kind of comes down to the question of why is this taking so long? What is it that's stopping us? And really, in fusion, there's a common saying that fusion's always 50 years away, no matter what year it is. So the physics of fusion has advanced pretty dramatically over the last half century. And this has provided an important proof of principle to demonstrate this is not just a crazy thought. With every year, every decade, we're able to devise new experiments to get us closer and closer to this goal of a fusion power plant. But that next step, all the way up to a power plant, is where we're at the brink of right now, but it's a big step to take. And what's stopping us from reaching there? Well, it comes down to things like that we traditionally stop big projects. It's cost, engineering challenges, and regulations are things that we have to now address, and it's really getting past that next order of magnitude step to reach that goal. So how are we going to reach that goal? Well, it's taken us quite a few years, but the international community has come together to build this next step, this giant international experiment called ITER, I-T-E-R, and it is meant to be the next major accomplishment. It is about 8 times larger than our current largest operating device. It's being built in France, expected to turn on around 2027 at a cost of around $20 billion. So that took, as you can imagine, quite a while to put that amount of funds together through a consortium of nations. And a big thing about ITER, though, is that it is still just an experiment, but it is going to demonstrate that you can produce about 10 times more power out than you put in. That's a big win because our current record is basically breaking even. So this will finally break through that barrier and show that a power plant is feasible. But the power plant design is not just physics. It comes down to other challenges as well, like engineering, technology, and societal acceptance and regulations. We have to consider all of these things together. We've made a lot of gains on the physics, but we have to keep pressing on all the other fronts. That is where our department at the University of Tennessee Nuclear Engineering Department has brought together teams of engineers, physicists, material scientists to try to actually address some of these challenges. And one of the biggest goals we have chosen as our mission has been to design vessel walls for this reactor that can survive for long periods of time. That's the engineering and scientific challenge that is essential for a power plant. It's one thing to run an experiment for 5 seconds at a time and prove the physics. It's another thing to have it run all day, every day, all year long. That's where you have to have engineers come in and build the design for you. And this is where we have made a lot of progress. And we're able to do this by basically compartmentalizing the problem. We can try to assess what is actually happening at the wall itself. How is the wall interacting with the materials that are coming towards it? Luckily, it's not going to be 100 million degrees by the time it gets to the wall, but it still is going to be high temperature particles. And just like sand wearing down a stone to make it smooth, atom by atom, the fuel particles will erode away the wall. So what we can do is, at UT, we've actually demonstrated that you don't actually need a $20 billion experiment to make a progress. That's one of our big goals, but we can make piecemeal progress as well with smaller experiments. Here you can see images of UTK students and staff designing diagnostics and smaller scale experiments to simulate smaller conditions and minute effects there. And this is where we've actually been able to make a lot of progress over the last few decades. And this is done both by students on campus in our laboratories at the university, but also by visiting these giant donut-shaped devices around the world. In San Diego, Princeton, France, our students have been able to represent the university there and actually participate. And it's really never ceased to amaze me, really, how much every student has been able to bring their own unique perspective to this project. It doesn't require a bunch of cloned physicists. It needs people of different backgrounds. And each student has brought a very unique perspective and a diversity of thought and background. And it's because of that that I've interacted with these students. I've really learned that it's important to make people realize that what's stopping us from getting this 50-year mission. Well, it's not some grand puzzle that's waiting for some lone genius to write some equation on the board that's suddenly going to mean the breakthrough. It's like any other grand engineering project. It's an accumulation of hundreds of tiny little challenges. It's not about rewriting the laws of physics. It's about allowing each member of our team to provide their own skills, give their own contributions, and provide another piece on our way to this puzzle. And that's the way I know that we'll reach our goal, because we have the team that is able to put this thing together. So thank you very much.